Hi everyone and welcome to another video in the Felix's Thoughts series. Today I'm going to give my take on the Corbyn era, what went well, what went wrong, and ultimately what led to his electoral defeat in 2019. Firstly, let me start by saying I think Jeremy Corbyn was the best Prime Minister this country never had. He was a kind and caring bloke whose policies would have revolutionised this country and transformed the lives of many. So, without further ado, what went well? A breath of fresh air. To start from the beginning, Corbyn only originally got onto the Labour leadership ballot paper because other MPs lent him their vote in order to widen the debate, because of course, what is a democratic socialist doing in the Labour Party? The MPs in question only did this due to pressure from activists, urging them to nominate Jeremy Corbyn. After scraping onto the ballot paper, Corbyn subsequently annihilated the competition during the 2015 leadership election. Corbyn's election came after a general election where you could barely fit a cigarette paper between the three biggest party's leaders, Cameron, Clegg and Miliband. He was therefore a breath of fresh air and offered a clear anti-austerity alternative. The 2016 leadership contest. After Labour MPs submitted a motion of no confidence in Jeremy Corbyn, he took on Owen Smith in the Labour leadership election, which resulted in a comfortable victory for Jeremy Corbyn, with him increasing his vote share from 59.5% in 2015 to 61.8% in 2016, which strengthened Corbyn's hand and sent a message to Labour MPs that they would not be able to topple him via this means, and that Labour's membership was firmly behind him. Support of young people. Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party galvanised young people up and down the country, including myself, to take an interest in politics and vote for the first time. Here was a man who spoke for them, in a political climate that had consistently let them down, with the introduction of tuition fees, rise of insecure work, including zero-hour contracts, unaffordable housing, and inaction on climate change, to name but a few issues. What I remember most vividly is seeing the old Jeremy Corbyn chant being sang by Stormzy and the crowd at Glastonbury. At one point, there was a time that whenever you heard Seven Nation Army being played, Corbyn's name would be chanted. Oh, how I miss those days. The 2017 manifesto. Originally leaked as a means to undermine Corbyn's 2017 general election campaign, this turned out to do the opposite and proved immensely popular amongst the general public. It's been pointed out previously by many scholars, such as Matt Goodwin, that the UK electorate leans to the left economically and to the right socially. This meant that policies such as scrapping tuition fees, taxes on the highest earners, and renationalisation of railways were always going to prove popular. Finally, Labour's Brexit position in 2017 respected the result of the EU referendum, allowing Leave voters to be able to vote for them in good faith, and, besides a few Remain extremists who went to the Lib Dems, was a more palatable, softer version of Brexit for Remain voters to accept. The 2017 general election campaign. The 2017 general election campaign as a whole was very successful for Labour, who, prior to the election campaign beginning, had been lagging far behind in the polls, which is what led Theresa May to call an early general election in the first place. Labour's campaign was electric. People came out in their droves to canvass for the party. As a result, the under-45s voted in unprecedented numbers, and this, combined with an increase in BAEM voter turnout, led Corbyn's Labour to achieve the highest vote share increase of any Labour Party leader since 1945. Theresa May. In addition, Theresa May was arguably one of the main assets for the Labour Party. You could not come across more of a joke of a leader. Someone who refused to debate Corbyn face-to-face, produced an immensely unpopular manifesto that pretty much alienated every section of the electorate, and on an individual level might have been possibly even less charismatic than Keir Starmer. As the campaign went on, she was quickly exposed as being weak and wobbly rather than strong and stable as she claimed. So what went badly for the Labour Party? Anti-Semitism allegations. As the phrase goes, repeat a lie often enough and people will believe it. Inevitably, in a political party with the largest membership in Europe, you are going to find a few anti-Semites, and such people have no place within the Labour Party or in politics as a whole. However, the media inflated the magnitude of anti-Semitism within Corbyn's Labour Party, whilst, may I add, also ignoring the bigger issue of Islamophobia in the Conservative Party, to the point where Boris Johnson was not seen as racist as Jeremy Corbyn by the general public. This is despite the fact that Corbyn has spent his whole political life and life in general, fighting racism, whereas Johnson is on record as having said and written racist slurs. The media had to resort to this as they realised they could not get him on economic policy, given how popular these proved to be with the general public, and so instead produced a series of character attacks. Treacherous colleagues. Throughout his whole tenure as a Labour leader, the right of the party despised him and everything he stood for. As Tony Blair said himself, "I wouldn't want to win on an old-fashioned leftist platform," and this was definitely a sentiment that was shared with the Blairites within the party. For example, when Labour Party MPs used the result of the 2016 EU referendum to pass a no-confidence motion in Jeremy Corbyn in an attempt to overthrow him. Another example, which has since been revealed, is how there were officials in the Labour Party who were actively worked to lose the general election in order to prevent Corbyn becoming Prime Minister. Even the Deputy Leader at the time, Tom Watson, was constantly undermining the Labour leader at every opportunity. In addition to this, a number of MPs left Labour to set up a new political party, Change UK, which made the Labour Party appear divided, something that never bodes well for political parties during elections. As Yanis Varoufakis stated about his own left-wing Syriza party in Greece, that it was from the betrayal from within which led to his defeat, and it's something that happened within the Labour Party and played strongly into Corbyn's demise. The media. Going up against the establishment was always going to be a tough ask. We live in a society that has the largest inequality gap in Western Europe, a long history of capitalism, with a Conservative Party that is often described as the most successful political party in the world. There is not anyone in recent British politics that has endured anything like the abuse Corbyn received from the media. As soon as he was elected, the media pushed the self-fulfilling narrative of him not being a leader or being electable. This is in comparison to the current Labour leader, Keir Starmer, who has had a walk in the park comparatively because he poses no threat to the establishment. Furthermore, after how well Corbyn did in 2017, the media doubled down in their efforts to topple him in the corresponding 2 years, resulting in much of the general public having an unfavourable view of him, with many being unable to explain exactly why. The 2019 general election campaign. Unlike in 2017, Corbyn had already led the party into a general election before, and so maybe he was not as new and exciting the second time round. History shows that leaders of the opposition are rarely successful the second time round, one example of this being Neil Kinnock. In addition to this, the election was held in winter, which probably resulted in a weaker ground game, as people would inevitably be less enthusiastic to go out door knocking in winter. Ultimately, Labour lost a lot of its traditional heartland support, something that had been happening for a while and was exacerbated and sped up by the second referendum policy, leading to the collapse of the so-called Red Wall. Boris Johnson. In comparison to Theresa May, Boris Johnson is a character and is also arguably ideologically less conservative than Theresa May was, meaning that he presented a much more difficult challenge to Corbyn. Boris Johnson was more comfortable promising left-wing economic policies, such as increased investment in the NHS, hiring more nurses, and to help level up areas of the UK. What is more, he was able to cater for the UK public being more socially conservative, by promising to be stronger on areas such as crime and immigration. The Salisbury poisonings. Due to the constant anti-Russian rhetoric that has dominated the UK media narrative, the UK public possesses the greatest fear of Russia within Western Europe. So when Corbyn did not immediately conclude that Russia was behind the Salisbury poisonings, there was a notable drop in his personal favourability ratings, as well as the Labour Party's. The 2019 manifesto. Labour took the wrong lessons from 2017. The electorate in the UK is sadly so used to politicians lying to them that the vast swathes of policies in the manifesto simply were not believed due to such low expectations of politicians. And this was coupled with Labour's reputation for being untrustworthy with the economy due to being in power during the 2008 financial crisis. In addition, short, snappy, easy-to-remember phrases do well in elections, with Johnson's "Get Brexit Done" that he repeated over and over again helped tap into the Brexit fatigue the UK was experiencing at the time. This catchphrase is from a similar mould that delivered "Take Back Control." The Second Referendum Brigade. This group has got a lot to answer for. Their pure desperation to cancel Brexit at any cost ironically led to a much harder Brexit. Had they not been so idealistic, it is more likely that Theresa May's Brexit deal would have been passed through Parliament with a few amendments, and would not be stuck with Johnson. Such pressure groups forced Labour, with the help of MPs such as Keir Starmer, David Lammy and Sadiq Khan, into an electorally suicidal second referendum position. Of the 64 target seats Labour needed to win in order to gain a majority in 2019, 45 of those voted Leave. Based on these mathematics, how on earth was Labour going to win an election if they essentially alienated the entire Leave vote? Moreover, the Remain extremists, who would stop at nothing to stop Brexit, would be more likely to vote for the Lib Dems anyway, who had flat out promised to cancel Brexit. So that concludes my analysis of what I believe went right and what went wrong for Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you believe that there are any areas I might have missed, or if you disagree with me on any other points, then do let me know in the comments section below. And if you haven't done so already, if you could please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Felix's Thoughts.